Welcome to the More Business, More Life podcast. On today's episode, I'm joined by Melissa Barrett and Giovanni Godina. And again, I'm Steve Napolitan. Stephanie Vetter gives us all her love, but she's not joining us today. And we are talking about choice today. So we've talked about our core purpose. We've talked about our core values and what they mean to us. But then how do we choose to let that come into our life? And when things get hard, how do we choose to do it different? How do we choose to make it easier? How do we choose to make it happier, to bring more joy in our life? And sometimes it's not easy. And we talk about that as well. So let's jump into how do we choose the change that we want in our life right now? Achieving the success we want without sacrificing. And you might say, how is that possible? Well, keep listening. We're going to break those paradigms that we have to sacrifice. So we thought on today's episode, now that we said all this over the last, 6-7 episodes, how you might be asking yourself, I'm listening to this show, Steve, More Business, More Life. And I'm not sure how all this pieces together, and that's okay. A lot of people say that even about love. They're like, how can love be about business? Now, we did talk about that, but what we thought we'd do today is kind of bring all this together. So when we think about all these things, how does it allow us? It takes all these elements and more to really have more business and more life. And if you really think about it, if you bring love to the table, you're going to include more. You're going to be a softer, not as abrasive, not as quick to judge. And it's not just judging others, it's judging ourselves. But, love ourselves, love others, then it's going to make business and life a lot more enjoyable. And then, I'm just doing a quick rundown. Then if we look at gratitude, if we find what to be grateful for, instead of, again, judging others and being upset with them, I always say, don't hate. Celebrate, right? Like celebrate the goodness. Everyone has good. There's no all bad. There's no all good. That's why yin and yang, even if you look at that yin and yang symbol and you see the dark side, inside there is light. And on the light side, inside there's dark. And you can't even see, we wouldn't even understand light and dark if we didn't have, nighttime and daytime. It would be all the same. So, there's reasons for seasons and there's reasons for day and night. And there's, sometimes we don't love and appreciate what we have until it's not there. And I can relate to that deeply right now because I lost my ability to walk and move my arms and move my face and blink my eyes as I had Guillain-Barré syndrome. And so you appreciate moving really quick. You appreciate blinking your eyes, because if you don't blink your eyes, what I learned in this, you will lose your vision because you can't wet your eyes and your eyes will dry and I guess the cortex or whatever will break and you'll lose your vision. Simple things like that we take for granted. Blinking. Wow. So, and then you go down the line, freedom, fun, together, all these things accentuate our life. So if we put them present, and that's what I think we want to extrapolate together today, how can we bring these into our present life? And, sometimes if you're just like learning or experiencing these things, you might even want to try, just focus on love one day, focus on gratitude one day, focus on, the growth. What are you learning today? What thing is free for you? Like what thing's not free? Like what thing do you feel outside of your freedom? Noting these things down can be the start of a new quest, a new part of your life. And then going down the line, where are you having fun and where are you not having fun? You see this and it all comes out. And then where are you working together or where are you feeling, opposition? And what just popped in my head, Giovanni and Melissa, is choice. If you think about all these things, it's choice. How do we choose? Do we choose to love? Do we choose to be grateful? Do we choose to grow or be pissed off, right? Like, oh, today it didn't work out that way. Okay, well, you could choose to be really mad at yourself, at the world, at the person that cut you off on the freeway, or you could say, hey, what can I learn from this, right? You can choose not to be free. I know many people, including myself, where I created my own jail. I took my own freedom away by my actions and my thoughts. And then And then, continue down. I've chose to not have fun. I know there are times I could tell some stories where I took fun away from my life. I chose to make it harder. And sometimes we do this subconsciously. So again, don't beat yourself up and say, I'm terrible. I can't choose right. It's not always it's not always it's not always conscious. Sometimes it's below, it's that subconscious, like a knee-jerk reaction. It's just the way that you grew up or the way that you were trained. And then together, we could choose to be together or we could choose to be alone. What would you say, Melissa and Giovanni? Like, how do you choose these things? When we talk about our value and we talk about our core purpose, and I know there's probably many layers. We could do many episodes. What's the first thing comes to mind? Like, how do you choose to incorporate this or choose in a moment of time, where you could go down like a fork in the road and you could go one way or the other, and one way you might not be as happy and the other way. Do you slow down enough to notice it? Do you not notice it? I mean, like, I'm open to hear your thoughts around how do we choose these things in our life more. Yeah. What do you think?
Well, it's a great question. I think for me, based on a lot of work that we've done together, I think the first thing I focus on is intention, because it gives you a gauge, I think, for where do you want to go and where are you intending to go. So then it makes, kind of choosing a pathway a little bit easier, because ideally you at least have some prioritization or some intention of where you want the end to be. Um, and if you don't, then I actually try to go back. I think my son asked me a question the other day and he was like, you know, he's working on a business. Do I pick, like my schoolwork or my entrepreneurial duties? And I'm like, you got to do them both. But, it's like, okay, think about the deadlines. What do you need to do first? And, so to me, a lot of it has to do with your own intention. And I think a lot of times you have to go inside yourself and do the work inside to know what your intention is. Because I think it's so easy to just be distracted and not focus on your specific intention as a person, as opposed to, what you're trying to do per se. And you just distract yourself with, well, I need to go here and do this, as opposed to, what do I really intend with this particular, decision.
I think that's great. And maybe even to share a little bit more, Melissa, because when you think of intention, sometimes we forget that and we get caught up in the actions, as you're saying, and then we're just doing something. And then we wake up one day and like, what the heck am I doing? So how do you bring yourself, I mean, is it just a remembering? Do you have like indicators in your life so you remind yourself what's my intention? Because you really have to pause and go one layer deeper, and then maybe a lot of actions will disappear. You're like, well, I don't have to do that because it's not part of my intention.
Exactly. I mean, now I have it's a daily practice for me, to wake up, think about my intention for today, and then really focus on, and then do meditation, and not only do the meditation, take some time in that quiet time, and then listen to what my mind does after that, that infinite intelligence of, like, what should I be doing? I intend to do this, but where am I actually going? What am I actually doing? And how is today going to make a difference in that journey? But I think the other thing is, sometimes we forget to enjoy the journey because we're so focused on getting to the goal. And you wake up and you go, oh my gosh, that's like 50 years later, or, a year later, or whatever. It's like you said, it's like your kids grow up so fast.
Yeah.
I just like add or emphasize what Melissa said was that it's a practice, right? Like we'll get better with time, and it's not going to be perfect every single day, but it's just like being aware of it, of the choices and decisions to do it. And for me, I'm more and more noticing, I'm in some kind of transition in my life right now, because there's like, it just feels like it's chaos that's going on in life right now for me. And it's just like, just pausing and trying to pause and during those moments, and just like sit and like, okay, like what's going on? What would I like? Right. Kind of just paying attention to all the stuff that you teach, and really use it in my life. And it's kind of it's that forgiveness. We were talking about this earlier, but the forgiveness of, if a day doesn't go the way you want it to go, or didn't go the way you wanted to go, or it's not starting the way you wanted to start, or whatever it is, but just like pausing, be like, okay, like what's going on? I think really taking stock of how you're feeling. That's like a big indicator, right? It's one of our things. If you're not having fun in what you're doing, like, you should really stop and just think about it. It's like, okay, why am I not having fun? And is whatever I'm doing, I don't know, if like worth it, or is there another way to do it where I can be enjoyable? Because I mean, you could cook some pasta on the stove and have your hand on the stove, and it'll get cooked. Well, your hand will as well, right? But like, is there a better way? Um, yeah, don't put your hand on the stove, right? Have some music on the background instead, and just like put it in there, and just have some fun making it, and get your hand off the stove. But there's a lot of people who metaphorically have their hand on the stove while they're cooking, right? Going, and it's like, no, this is the way it's done. This is how it has to be. Um,
No pain, no gain, Giovanni.
yeah, the no pain, no gain. Yeah, it works, right? I mean, there are people who've done it, like you say, Steve. There's people who I was going to use slave it away. That's not a good word, a good phrase to say, but like, who just are like, yeah,
Push through
just
it.
just pushing through it, just hitting those rocks, and like, you'll get through it. It'll work, maybe, actually, not everybody, because you say, like, you say, what's the saying? Those, like those who work hard, are successful. Like, you can look at tons of different blue collar people who work their butts off, right? They work really, really hard, and they're struggling, right? So, I think kind of comes to that intention that you said, like Melissa was saying, the intention, and really focusing on like what emotions are coming through from what you're doing. Because if it doesn't feel right, then your body's probably telling you there's something going on that you should pay attention to.
Yeah, work doesn't equal success. It can, but it's
Yeah.
not like a moratorium. It's not like a absolute. And so you could see people, like, to your point, Giovanni, working really hard and they have less, and you can see people that work very little and they have lots. So what's that? Then you go like, what the heck happened, right? Like, how did that happen? Well, it's a mindset, and it also is coming back to the awareness that both of you are bringing up, to slow down enough to be aware that, hey, maybe this isn't the smartest way to do this. And I think an easy answer for most of our lives is just to put more hours in. That's the easy answer. It's like, oh, I'll just work more. Well, okay, you can do that. That's a choice. Yep. And you have that choice. Or you can pause, like you were both saying. And Melissa, you brought it up great, to like reflect. What is my intention? Why am I doing this? What thing is going to come from this? Is this good for me? Is it not good for me? Do I want this? Do I not want this? Yeah, those are some great questions, instead of just driving into work without thinking about it, just being numb to the world and not know what's going on. And then to give a little pause, and like you said, meditate and listen, and then say, okay, is there a better way? There's always another way. There's always another way. So if that's true, if there's always other ways to do things, then why would we not take pause? And I heard one spiritual teacher, I think it was Yogananda, who wrote the book, Autobiography of a Yogi. And he said, meditation and spiritual quest should be thought of as becoming a great pianist. Like, you don't, even meditation, people think it's so simple. You just sit there And, okay, what is there to learn? Well, there's a lot. There's a lot to learn. And it takes practice, going back to what both of you said. And, and that was a great line. And I'm also learning piano. So I resonated with that. I'm like, oh yeah, I know how hard it is to learn piano. And maybe even that's my mindset, how hard it is, but it is getting easier. I think the hard part was letting myself not be good. I think as we become adults that are learning new things, we tend to automatically think that we should be good right away. And so it's hard sometimes for us to say, oh, I'm not so good at this, and but I want to do it, so I'm going to keep going. And then you play Mary Had a Little Lamb a bunch of times, and then you learn something else, and then one day you can play Felice. So it's meditation, and these thoughts we're talking about is that same level of practice. So how do you, so coming back to choice, how do you choose that? Because we all have good days and bad days. We all do it, and then we don't do it. So what would you say to folks that are like trying some of these things out for the first time, and then they have good days and bad days? Like I know we all went through it. So how did you move past that? Or even if we're in it now, like how do you deal with it?
Well, I tend to live my life without regret. At least I try. So I always give myself the benefit of the doubt that says, if I will try to make the best decision that I can with the information I have right now. And if that information changes, then I probably can change my mind or do something different, right? Most of the time you can. There are times that you can't. If you're like a surgeon, doing brain surgery or something, you can't really necessarily make a choice and change your mind, an hour later. But most of the time, I really just give myself the benefit of the doubt. And then guess what? I wake up the next day, and if I need to choose again, I do.
Yeah.
I'm like, you know what? I don't think that was the right thing. Let me do something different. So that's the one thing about living this life. You have free will. You can change your mind and choose differently.
Even the surgeon though, right, Melissa? Because what if they open it up and they're like, oh my gosh, this is wrong, exit, stitch it up, let's get out of here. This is not the solution. A great surgeon can admit
Yeah.
I think, and that's the thing, right? We all have to admit, oh, maybe that wasn't the right way,
Yeah. No, that's right.
Yeah. I mean, going along those lines, I would say I think for me, like a lot of stuff just comes down to noticing, right? Like if you're first trying this stuff out, it's just noticing what it feels like. What does an off day feel like for you? I don't like to say there's bad days because they're just off days. But yeah, it's just like it's trying to find that pause in something. I mean, I think a lot of us just go through the daily motions, right? You just get in a routine, like you wake up at a certain time, you do something as soon as you get out of bed, and you do something else, right? Like you just have this routine and you're just like on autopilot. And so then I think when people really start to get woken up from that routine, it's just noticing, because like I think people don't realize too that like the current routine that you have has taken you a long time to establish, right? We think because it's like just over time we're like adding things on and we're just kind of going. And then when people really want change in their life, they like are shaking things up and want things to change like abruptly and like instantly. And it's like, hey, you created this routine, these patterns for years of your life, unconsciously, some consciously, most unconsciously. And for us to change those, it's going to take time. And kind of getting back to what you were saying, Steve, about playing the piano, like we want to be good at it right away, right? In our society, we want things instantaneously, right? Like it's like every technology out there is kind of catering for instantaneous gratification, right? Like we're always want things now. And so when we're trying to change ourselves, we want things to change now, not realizing that it's taken us years, if not decades, to create who we are today. So I think for me, it's always comes back to just to noticing like, okay, if you're trying to change your patterns and change your daily routine and noticing and choosing, it's like stopping to just like, okay, I no longer want to do this. I want to do this. and it's going to take time, right? I think the what is it, the how to build a habit, actually I heard it's actually different for different things, like, because they say, like, it takes 21 days to build a habit, it takes 90 days to build a habit. And I think it just depends on what habit you're trying to break or trying to create a new one of, right? If it's something that's going to take you a long time to get to do, it's going to take longer time to do. If it's like something that's really simple and easy to do within, you can do it within a couple of days. So I think it's, again, just kind of coming back, bringing it all together, is it's just the noticing of whatever it is that you want, like how you want to act, how you want to feel. I'm currently going through it right now. Like, I woke up today and I was just like, dude, something's not right. Like, I feel off. Like, just negative thoughts, just everything's kind of, I don't know, it's just kind of blah. And I was like, what is going on? Like, this is not who I am. It's not how I am. And just trying to take those moments. And my kid's home today. And so, like, there's not many moments to take that I can just pause for a moment or two. And it's like, okay, the seconds that you can, just like taking a breath, just trying to be, and I'll be honest with you, like, I'm still in the thick of it right now. I'm just like, oh man, I feel kind of blah right now as I'm talking. But which is funny because it actually kind of helps. Like, you just talking about it, right? Just like getting things out.
Mhm.
But it's noticing, like, I'm stopping to notice, like, as I'm going through the thoughts, I'm just like noticing, wow, that thought does not really, one, serve me. It doesn't feel good. And it's like, what would I like? What would I like instead? Um, and yeah,
Yeah.
so noticing.
Yeah. I think I've said this before on our podcast on another episode, but I think it's an English proverb. Here I am with Mr. Proverb over here. I never thought I'd be the one quoting all these things, but I have it in my office, but I can't quite see it from here. But it says, just when the caterpillar, I'm doing this from memory, so I might be a word off, but just as the caterpillar thought the world was over, it became a butterfly. And so sometimes in these bigger growth moments, it might be years, like you said, Giovanni, years of development and things. And then right before some massive transformation, we tend to feel in the darkest point. It's just interesting. So that
Yeah.
that proverb has rang true for me. And I think it does come back to slowing down. And kudos to you, Giovanni, like, to show up. Like, you don't feel good, you could have not showed up. And Melissa and I would have been here together, but you showed up. You are finding those moments in between with your daughter, like, so you can just take a moment to take a deep breath, anything that you can get. I mean, so you are doing it. Like, you're taking all the lessons you have learned and you're doing the best you can to incorporate it into your day. So I say, good job. And
Success.
yeah, success. Even though it's weird, right? Because here we are saying success, and I love it, Melissa. Thanks for bringing that in. When it doesn't feel like that, but it really is, because you're using the tools to get through. Because we're all going to have. That's why there's never all light, and there's never all dark. And some days are going to be leaning one way or the other, and it's these tools that help us navigate.
Yeah.
Well, and I think it's so interesting because Giovanni brings up the point of, kind of feeling off and just the level of chaos and change, and because there's so much going on around us, and now there's such a stream of information that never stops. I mean, it never stops. And there is this negativity bias that we have. Our brain I think moves almost immediately into that negativity space. And it's we want change, but change is threatening, right? I mean, and so I think what's interesting is that we have to really kind of ground ourselves in a way that maybe we haven't before, especially, now with, and we can talk about, the pandemic and all that. I don't think we're going to know how much the pandemic has impacted us for years to come. And it's just amazing to me to, even when we talk about success, sometimes success can just be getting out of bed. I mean, after my husband passed away, it was like, you know what? It was a successful day because I got up and made myself breakfast, whatever. And so, your life changes, and seasons change. And so what may be a success for you today, you look back, 2 years from now and your success is totally different.
Yeah. It's it's so true. And all of this comes back to knowing yourself, because you're right. Like, Melissa, with all the streams of information, what's true? What's not true? It's starting to be really hard to know. I think the only way we really know is to go back to self. Like, we have to go back to our inner truth meter. I think you really do know. Like, it's like, if you think about, if you ever gone into a room and you're like, something doesn't feel right, I'm going to leave. Like, if you ever been to a party or some engagement, you're like, I don't like how it feels here. I'm going to go on my way. I'm going to go home or whatever. You should listen to that instinct. And then if you like, there's a Russian immigrants that my wife was just reading me a story about recently, and their family was waiting for a train in Russia, and I forget the date. This is like early 1900s, and the lines were like crazy. So the man said, "Come on, honey," and he took his daughter and his son and his wife, and they went on a sleigh ride just for fun because they were waiting. We'll come back when the line's not as long, and then we'll make our destination. And it was one of the biggest massacres in Russian history. The delay was on purpose, and then they killed everyone at the station. I forget the exact year. I should just read it to me yesterday. It's a horrific story to bring it to think, but this man survived. So something inside made this intuition, and I'm not trying to make a bad thing a good thing, but I mean, we can in all of our lives, like, listen to the thing. So something inside said, "Let's leave, let's leave, let's leave." And then the same, like, sometimes we could feel down, and then you show up. So the opposite could be great too. And then you show up and there's life, and we're breathing and we're together, right? And we're hugging each other, and you come back to that love, right? Sometimes we need that, when we're going through those dark moments, that we're not alone, that, so just take a deep breath. And we, you just, the first thing is, do I choose to live? And if that comes back as a yes, then I think we need to all slow down enough to hear the truth coming from our heart. And that's why I think that's called our heart's desire. It's there for a reason. Like, we're given indication. That's why joy is another value so important to all of us. Is so important to me because it's my indicator that I'm on path. When I start losing joy, then it makes me slow down. So this is my mechanism. Doesn't feel right? Slow down, pause. Okay, reassess, and then make new choices. And then we can all live in a lot more joy and with a lot less robotic action, right? Or what other people tell us to do, because what's their agenda? And maybe we need to know, maybe we don't need to know. But I think I would say I would lean towards not knowing and go back to me. If I had to choose, I'm like, okay, I got to make this decision. This is being said to me. I'm hearing this in the news. Do I choose that, or do I go meditate and listen to my heart? I would choose listening to my heart. And I think we all need to right now. We need to lean on that heavier, because it's really confusing what to believe these days.
Yeah, I was gonna actually say, when Melissa said there's like multiple streaming stuff, I was like, yes. And there's like the actual your own streaming source of
Yes.
what's there. Cause yeah, like you said, there's tons of stuff that's what's hard is that there's truth sprinkled in all the fake stuff, and like kind of vice versa. So like it's harder to decipher what is true and the quote unquote what's true. 'Cause I mean, really, your perspective is your own truth, right? Like the three of us can be looking at a painting, the exact same painting, and have a different experience, and like that's our truth, right?
Yeah.
Like one just, something I would think was beautiful, and Melissa was like, oh no, like it has this in it, and then you come in with some knowledge that Jen told you, your wife, and she's like, oh, but did you guys know this? And we're like, oh man, all our truths are different. But
Yeah.
the kind of what you were just talking about, see, like trusting yourself, it's like that's the streaming you should probably listen to the most, right? And again, I think that comes down to pause, right? Just noticing, like, because that's like one of the things I'm trying to work on more and more on is allowing that to kind of flow through, because it's always going, right? It's always flowing.
Yeah.
It's like,
But I think, isn't that the thing you listen to the least in a lot of ways, you know? Because you just, it's like you don't feel like you are actually worthy of making the decision. Not worthy, but like confident maybe, or I don't know
for
what the
some people
word
might be worthy, for some
Yeah.
people might be confident. I mean, right? It's I think
It's
our
weird.
society, Western society, we're not taught to believe that anymore, right?
Yeah.
Certain cultures heavily like, no, like you are intuitive people, like, and I think a lot of Western society, it's we outsource it, right?
Mhm.
Not to go in like any kind of religion or bag on any specific one, but a lot of religion outsources that to a higher power, right? Where really you are the higher power. You have that ability within yourself. And not to say that is bad or anything like that, but you I dated somebody, and one of her cousins, I think it was her cousins, was just like really, really religious. And he's like, no, God will provide, but he didn't ever do anything. Like he just like, God will do it, God will do it, God will do it. And then like he was just kind of always in the same thing because he outsourced it. Not to say that it's like a bad thing, but he didn't do anything to help himself kind of get to a place when, like, I think that's, I don't know if I'm getting off topic on that, but like I feel like a lot of people are taught to not believe in themselves, kind of a
It's like a
thing.
misunderstanding. I get where you're going, Giovanni, because
Yeah.
it's like that story that I often say where a man's in the ocean and a boat comes and they're praying, God, please help me, and a boat comes, and then they're like, no, God will help me, and they let the boat go by, and later God says, I sent the boat, like. So
Right.
you have to be worldly, like, and that's what a lot of great spiritual teachers will say. Yes, find spirit, be with God and everything and all this universal intelligence, and be in the world, right? That's why cleanliness is godliness, and that means more than just washing your skin. That's like, be in your environment, do the things you're meant to do. But I think we're at an extreme thing in modern society where the activities are so great, and the it's not responsibility, but the impression upon us is that if we're not doing a lot of things, we're not doing good. And
Mhm.
that activity mutes our ability to pause and thereby hear that internal voice and have our own personal relationship with infinite, which then gives us all this information. And that allows us to have that. And so, in other societies, like you're saying, there are places in this world, and I mean, you could go to a monastery and they're listening a heck of a lot more, right? I mean, and even that, like I brought up Yogananda on this podcast, but I love how he said it. He said, he grew up in India. So he said that some spiritual people, they're so spiritual, they're missing the worldly things. And then he said, when he came to America, he said, they're so worldly, they're missing the spiritual things. And he said, it's really both. We need to have both. If you take a whole life sitting in meditation, you'll learn some things, but if you spend all your life in activity, you'll learn some things. But if you can actually have both, and that's kind of what we're always saying. It's the both. It's the and, more business and more life. In this, we can have rest and activity. And when you can have both, there's magic in that, because we can take pause so that we actually are working smarter, not harder. We can actually take the right activity. So we're not saying eliminate activity. We're not saying that on this podcast. It's not like sit on the couch, like you're saying that person said, I'm going to sit here. God will take care of everything. I'm just going to sit on the couch.
Mhm.
No, that's not what the words say. That's a misinterpretation. So we could take any one thing to extreme, and a lot of extremes, that's what gets us in trouble, right? If you look at some of the things that are craziest in the world, they were brought to extreme, when if we could just find the middle. I think we need to go back to that childhood story of Goldilocks, right? The porridge is too hot. Oh, it's too cold. It's just right. The chair is too big. It's too small. It's just right. I mean, man, the wisdom in that book. I mean, we could just read that and then have a life that has that middle ground, and where we have enough pause to see clearly, and then we take the right action instead of all the action. That's why I'm so adverse to grind. I'm not so adverse. Like, you do you. If that's what feels right and you want to grind, but what's the grind for? I was thinking while you were talking that, when I was a kid, I didn't like sweeping or cleaning up, but it's a requirement as a kid. Well, it wasn't my household. You got to do your part in this house. You live here, like, do your part. And so there's times where I did not like it, massive dislike. But then I can know in my adult life where I wanted to be around some real estate investors. And I remember one specifically, I was like, hey, I want to hang out with this person. I want to ask them questions. And I'm like, what are you doing tonight? They're like, I'm cleaning a house so I can get it ready for a new tenant that's moving in tomorrow. And I was like, can I come help? And they're like, I don't need help. I'm like, really? You don't need help? How long is it going to take you? They're like 3 hours. I said, well, if I come, wouldn't we be able to get it done in less than 3 hours? They're like, yeah, that's right. But why would you do that? I said, I don't know. Let me be that my choice. You don't have to pay me anything. I just want to be there with you. And I just want to ask you questions while we're doing it. Is that okay? And they're like, oh, it's your choice. They thought I was crazy, that I was going to give up 3 hours of my life. And then we got it done in an hour together, the whole thing. And I remember sweeping, and I was like, this is the best sweeping ever. I'm getting all this knowledge of asking questions. And then I even had this feeling. I'm like, someone's moving in here. I'm giving love here. I'm making it nice. So when they come in, they can have a clean house. And that was my best sweeping ever. But it comes back to what you said, Melissa. It's intention. You could be sweeping a floor and be in joy, because I'm learning, I'm growing, I'm making the house better for another family. Like, so many blessings, instead of saying, I have to sweep. I'd rather be doing something else. Well, no, like, I'm making it better.
Yeah.
It comes back to choice. So how do you, let's go into the hard space. How do you reset when you don't even want to make a choice? Like, there's been moments, I've been there too, and you're like, you can't even make a choice sometimes. You're just so much in it. What's your first thing? If you feel like, I don't know what to do, or it feels so dark, or like, as you said, Giovanni, well, I guess maybe direct this to you, Giovanni, first. That you said today was chaos, and it wasn't on. How did you muster it up to come here? Like, what how do you deal with that?
I don't know. That's a good question. You just do it. I mean, you just gotta kind of. There is no rhyme or reason. Just like today, just getting up, just like first thoughts were just like, what is going on? Like, just had a lot of negativity, and then it's like, but like, I know just from past experience, the more I dwell on something, and I think it's probably for a lot of people, the more you dwell on it, or again, where attention goes, energy flows. So it's trying to get my head out of that space. And like, as you were speaking about the sweeping thing, which is kind of funny, like popped in my head, I'm like, yeah, when I was younger, I hated like manual labor. Like any kind of
When you were
hard work.
younger, you hate it now, don't you?
Actually, you know what? Like more and more, like I find that there's something to doing something. Like you kind of lose yourself in whatever it is, right?
Yes.
And I guess whatever
or whatever.
Yeah. I mean, like there's days I hate washing dishes. It's just like, I'm like, again, like every day they're there. What is with dishes? And then, but it's like, but something like that, even doing something like that, or oddly enough, there's something for me about like sweeping that literally, like the other day I was like, my God, it's not too bad. It's kind of fun. You like just follow the boards on the floor and just like make a little game out of it. But it's like, I think it's finding something in the moment to kind of get back to what you're saying, Steve, to distract yourself from whatever it is that's kind of hard for you. Because I think if you're just dwelling on it, like just like, I'm in this thing, and like I'm in this thing, and like all you're thinking about is like I'm in this thing, you're not gonna get out of it, right?
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
you got. I think for me anyway, I had to find a way to to focus on something different. And like as you were talking, actually, that's the question. I was like, the first thing like in my head, joking, like go to sleep. Like when you're like, how do you get out of it? Like just go to sleep, right? And it could be one, but one for me, when I do that, I get kind of more into it because like my body needs to do something to release that energy or get it to go away.
Yeah.
And so like for me, sometimes sleep is good. Like you just need to clear your mind, right? You just need to let everything kind of just go. So sometimes it works, but a lot of times I find if I have too many days that doesn't have any kind of productivity, if you will, whether it's, just cleaning something, making something, a hobby or whatever it is, then like the energy keeps going down because like the body's just like not doing anything. And I think in certain ways we do need to be kind of productive. Like again, kind of comes out of balance, right? You don't want to be overly productive, you don't want to be underly productive. But you want to have like some kind of movement in life, right? And then for me, that's anyway.
Well, this is beautiful. So what I'm hearing is it's a choice. Like, so that's where there's enough awareness that you're like, I'm not feeling right, but what's the choice I'm going to make? And sometimes it might be a nap. Some might be an activity. It gets your mind off things. But it's all an activity. And, I find that like even today I'm drinking cacao as we're talking in this cup that I got from Addis Ceramics. They make custom ceramics, and they actually invited me to talk and speak about chocolate and gratitude. And they called it Gratitude in a Vessel because they create the vessel. And a lot of their I have a few of their cups and I love them so much. I use them almost daily. So that means I have to wash them daily. And so, remember how we say our tagline, choose gratitude, create freedom. And the more that I encompass that tagline in my life, it's what reason it's our tagline, choose gratitude, create freedom, because it's what allows us to have it. So when I'm in those moments, and that's what I'm kind of hearing you say, Giovanni, like it came loud and clear in my head, choose gratitude, create freedom. We're choosing that. So as I'm washing this dish, I don't want to, but I can think of Addis. They made this cup for me. I could say thank you while I'm washing it. And thank you that I can drink this chocolate. And even then I'm thankful that I can drink chocolate with my wife tomorrow because this cup is going to be clean when I wake up in the morning. And I can be grateful that it's all ready to go in the morning. So I don't have to like look for a cup. It's like, and it's a special cup because they made it for me. And then, then there's other dishes. I've even thought about this. I'm washing the dishes, and a whole set of dishes that we have at our house is because my cousin had a catering company that they closed and they gave us all the dishes. So I'm like, thank you. Thank you for these dishes that I didn't have to buy. How this blessing come into my life. Thank you that I have dishes. Some people don't have dishes. Thank you for this water that's coming through my pipe like a miracle. I don't have to go to the river. I've heard of women that in the old days when washing machines first came, I met a family and he said that his mom stared at the washing machine because she didn't even know what to do with herself. She didn't have to hand wash all the clothes. She was just in so awe. It was like magic. She's just watching the machine. So, and my wife and I said, wow, that's interesting. My wife's name is Jenny. And she said, I've always seen those pictures of women sitting in front on a stool in front of the washing machine. I thought, what a weird picture. She's like, I've seen many of those pictures. And she's like, I get it now. They were just sitting there with the wash because that they used to be washing. So just to sit there and rest, now it's like, oh, that picture makes more sense. They're sitting there in gratitude. They're like, thank you, machine. Thank you. Can you imagine just sitting there the whole wash cycle of your dishwasher? Thank you for washing. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I don't have to wash. Thank you, dishwasher. Thank you. Thank you. I mean, we don't think about that because it's so removed. But, 100 years ago, not everyone had a dishwasher. Still, people don't have dishwashers in the world. I mean, so that if you're reaching for anything today, reach for gratitude. Then all the things that we think are difficult, it becomes relevant. But it doesn't mean that we don't have hard times. Look at all of us. I know the three of us feel gratitude a lot, but we still have days and then, we have a choice. So the same question to you, Melissa, when you have those moments where you're not sure what to do, like, what's for the listener, and, maybe we've thought about this a lot. So maybe even let your mind go back a little bit, a couple steps back, like, what was the first step that helped you navigate this to make What was the choice? Like when you had a tough day, like how do you navigate that choice? For a listener, like what would the first step you would recommend?
I would recommend stop and pause and breathe, because I mean, to me, when I have a rough day, I tend to go internal. So, in my family, we have high blood pressure, so we internalize a lot. And so when there's chaos going on, I tend to retreat and just be like, what is really important? And what do I intend for it to be? And so, for me, it's really all about, you know, what is I've made a different choices in my life at different times too. So, my choices when I was 24 and my choices now, 30 years later, are different. When I was 24, anytime there was a choice between work and personal, work would win. Like absolutely never. I mean, my upbringing, my dad was a workaholic. It was all about work ethic. Now I really spend time trying to figure out, like, do I really need that? Do I really want to do that? Is it really something that I need to do, and do I need to do it now, or could it wait? I ask myself, I think, more questions than I used to, and I'm not even sure that before I used to know what questions to ask. And now I do spend, like even just spending time with Steve Giovanni. I mean, I actually think about, he's kind of one of those people that makes you think about when you're doing meditation, and he's, thankful for drinking cacao. And then he goes into, I'm thankful for the people that pick it, and the earth, and I mean, like, sometimes you don't expand your mind that way. And so I find myself thinking about when I'm eating or, going to the store, it's like all the people that go into stocking the store and packaging, and, like everybody that was involved in me eating this piece of pasta or whatever. I mean, it's like I didn't necessarily used to think that way. It was always like, thank you for this food, or, whatever. But it's like you start, really focusing on gratitude, and then you go, wow, like there is, thanks for the sun and the moon and the stars. And, like there's so much going on that we just go through life taking for granted. And so, I think you change as your perspective changes, and you realize what is really important. And then you begin to shift and make, different decisions, and really think and hear and, understand yourself more. And I think that's the hard work. So, and, I would love to hear, Steve, how do you actually make the choice? Because I mean, I know there are a lot of people that come to you and say, I don't know whether I should do this or that.
It's and like you, Melissa, the choice was different. I know in my younger years, I thought life happens, it sucks, and I have to deal with it. And the first pivotal book that I read was Think and Grow Rich. And the first like whole third of the book, the very beginning, I don't remember the exact page count or whatever, but it felt like a lot, was story after story of adversity and people making a decision to change their life. And it came clear, like the number one first takeaway I took from that book was, you can choose. Like, I swear to you, when I read that book, I wanted to run in the street with pots and pans and tell everyone, you can choose, you get to choose your life. And you know what? I guess I'm still doing that. This is what this podcast is. I guess if we put a title to it, it would be choice. So first thing you have to do is realize you have a choice. That's the first micro moment, right? Like, You have to believe you have a choice. Otherwise, you're going to sit in the mire. You're going to sit in the mud. You're going to sit in whatever adversity you have. You have a choice. And then the second thing that's become my superpower is gratitude. You know, I started to say it, but I want to reinforce it. It's like, it is everything. And I think we're in a modern society today where we undervalue labor. I mean, you know, we like, you want to take it to extreme, be grateful for plumbers. I mean, you wouldn't even have sewer. You wouldn't have that. Like New York, you know, like talk about any big city, Chicago, Sydney, Australia, right? You know, it would be a mess, right? I mean, literally, I mean, people died in streets because people put their sewage out their window in the old days. I mean, we got to be grateful for the person. Like, people make fun of plumbers, and you know what? They make your house work. What about electricians? What about people that move dirt, you know, and we make fun of kids that play in dirt? Don't make fun of them. They might be making houses someday. They might drive a tractor. They might make a road so your car can run smoothly on there, right? Like, stop it. Stop judging and start being grateful. Like, so I do think of that, like, you know, the water kind of like every meal. So I think you said it best. So if there was another word to add on to grateful, it's pause. Because it's hard to be grateful if you don't pause. It's hard to even have these thoughts that I'm talking about without pause. And that's why I wear a turtle pendant. That's why there's turtles on my desk. And I mean more than one, because I have art of turtles. I have, you know, this is, my daughter drew this. I'm showing a picture of a turtle that my daughter drew and colored. Then this is another fine artist that paints. And he gave me a postcard of a replica of one of his paintings of a turtle. I literally have turtles all around me because I grew up in the United States during modern society to work. I came from immigrant families, work. And it was not to slow down. And so I think I guess that's the biggest thing I can give you, Melissa, is to slow down, to be turtle enough to say, okay, what's important? Like, all the things that we said are layered into here, because what do you do with the pause? So the first thing is to know you have a choice. Number one. Number two, pause. That's the first choice to make. Pause. If it doesn't feel right, if you're not doing, even if you have to get something done, if you have to sweep the floor because guests are coming in 10 minutes and it's chaos, pause for 1 minute. And I'll bet you the 9 minutes you won't even need to sweep the floor. You're probably taking more time because of the energy around it. So number one, if I put an order in this, a procedure, number one, you have choice, and then take the choice. And the first choice I would take, pause. Second choice, notice what I'm grateful for and what wisdom comes from that. And then 3, you can create your freedom. Literally our tagline, choose gratitude, create freedom, all comes from choice. And the big one is, when I don't know, I ask for help. And that's one's taken me years to learn, even through the last 19 months of my life with Guillain Barre. I literally had no choice but to ask for help because I couldn't even get out of bed. And I noticed inside myself the parts of me that still didn't want to ask for help. How ridiculous I was in a wheelchair, you know, trying to get water with a glass, and I couldn't even use my hands all the way. And I'm still trying to do it myself, when there's 4 other people living in my house that love me and would help me get a glass of water. We do this to ourselves. So I want to, you know, I appreciate, and there's so much more we could talk about this, but I appreciate this conversation, Giovanni, Melissa, and obviously we have so much more to share. And that's why this is a podcast and not one episode. We're going to have more coming your way in a good way. I hope this is helpful. I hope that find that our core purpose and our core values that we've shared over the last 7 episodes, plus this one, making 8, to choose. Now it's your choice to make a choice. You choose the life that you want. It doesn't mean that we're going to eliminate hard times, but we can surely reduce them by our choice, by our pause, by our gratitude, by asking for help. And life can be a lot better.
Choose gratitude.
That's it. That's the secret sauce. That's not so much a secret anymore. I hear a lot more people talking about joy and gratitude these days.
Yes,
It's
we
the
need it.
sauce. They say it's the sauce.
It's the sauce. Everyone wants gravy or sauce on our, it's there. So blessings to all of you. Thank you. We'll wish Stephanie well. Thank you, Giovanni and Melissa, for joining today. And we will, we love your comments. Just last thoughts. Please comment. Let us know what was the most valuable part of today's podcast. Share it with us. Ask us questions. Ask what you would like us to share about in future episodes. And if you really, really like this, please share it with someone else. We want to touch as many lives. Remember, our core purpose is to help as many people have the freedom they desire. And if you feel this helped you towards your freedom, then how many more people in your life would like to have this? Please share it with your heart. And we look forward to having you on the next podcast. Until then, remember, choose gratitude and create freedom. Love you all.